Well, I define creativity as approaching a situation in a new way, in a way that is unusual, that often comes from your imagination. It might not be a new idea, but it may be an old idea used in a new way, in a way that hadn't been applied to that situation before. And I think of it obviously much more broadly than just art. I think of it mainly as thinking, a way to think, and to really think of it as connecting ideas, so that connecting fragments of ideas or ideas, so that it makes a sort of eventually weaves into something, and not being afraid of thinking out of the box, or not being afraid of having imperfect or incomplete thoughts, but letting them go in a free as way as you can to come up with possibly a solution. Anyone in the world can have creativity, that it's universal that way, but I'm not sure everybody is born with it, and I think it can be nurtured, and should be nurtured to an extent, but there are definitely some people who are more creative than others. Doesn't mean they're more successful, it doesn't mean they're more anything, but they're more creative than other people. So in that way, it's not the same for everybody, but it certainly exists everywhere. I see that most small children are creative thinkers, or do creative things, but not all of them, and some of them with a smaller degree of devotion to creativity than others. So it's very uneven, for sure. Well, there's been many times when creativity has gotten me into jams and out of trouble. I had wanted when I was young to be an artist, and just life circumstances and everything else happened, so I wasn't. And instead I became a journalist, which is a writer, which is still creative. And so when I left, but all that time, I took workshops, I sketched, I drew in my spare time, and I always thought in my heart that I would be an artist when I left. But, when I left, I had a panic for a half a day, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But there it was, and that was, creativity. That was like, I can do this. I can be this. I don't have to. All I need is a pencil. I can do all of this. And it was the most freeing moment, And I thought, oh my God, this is really what I planned. And I'm not a mature person, so I don't plan things well. And I stumble on things, and they happen. But in this case, I planned it, and I didn't. I only half thought that I would pull it off, And I realized, like a half a day after I retired, that I could pull it off, and that I could have this whole new creative life, and that was very inspiring to me, and that has been inspiring, and a real sort of revelation that I did one thing right. I don't mean for the world, but for myself, and. So I'm grateful for always keeping in my mind that maybe I could do this, and then doing it. I stumble into a lot of things. Now, that doesn't have to do with creativity, that just has to do with immaturity. And I stumbled into something that I had no intention or a desire to do, which was to start a gallery. And I'd never been in business. I consider an art gallery a store. It's like a liquor store. It sells art instead of liquor. And it just, it just wasn't something I wanted to do, or that I thought I could do, or that I would be any good at. But this building came up big building, came up in downtown Chester as a possibility, and I just started again spinning in my imagination. Could this be possible? Could this be a gallery? This 2-story, 3-story building. I mean, could we do that? Could I do that? I didn't even know that many artists back. I mean, I knew some. I didn't know that many. I didn't know anything about it. And I just started to think about it. And I thought, why don't we just plunge in? I'll have a meeting. I'll find the artists I know. So this is where creative thinking comes in. I'll get those, and this is also some experience being a journalist, how to find people, which I found a very valuable thing to know how to do. And so I make them find other people and find other people. How do we do this? How do we get them excited? How can we make this thing come off the ground? And so I just kept working at it, finding different people who might want to be interested, and we had a meeting. And I let it be chaos, like meetings often are when I'm involved. And I decided to let it be chaotic. Just let them all, and it was in the building itself where Maple and Main Gallery was going to be. And that wasn't the name, didn't know, but I let them talk over each other. They let their creative thoughts, their anxieties all get out there, and some selfishness as well. What's this going to do for me? How am I going to, that kind of stuff. There was a lot of that. And just let it flow in there. And slowly, this thing emerged. And then you could sort of see how it might work. How do you, and these are of course all creative people too. So, but it took a lot of processing, and it happened. And we had this big gallery with no money. We had no money. And that's when I realized you can do things with no money. And but you have to think about how you're going to get enough money to do it. And you have to think outside the box, because this is not, nobody's going to give it to you. You have to start. You can't have a big chunk of money. These are all artists. They're not going to give it to you. And so there had to be some original thinking there to make it happen, and it was, and it did happen. And so, and that turned out, that experience of 6.5 years turned out to be very valuable for me. Because one thing, it gave me the discipline to do art, because this was a big gallery, and you had to do art, you had to make art for it all the time. So I was an artist, that was something I wanted to be, but I hadn't realized it till I forced the discipline on myself, and others felt the same way. And we made a big community. I mean, it was, you can imagine the strife, the disagreements, the rest of it. but it held together the whole time. And out of that grew River Valley Arts when we stopped having the gallery, which was, when you see here, it was mainly, it just got, I and the two other people really in charge of it, just got bored. This is getting boring. This is repetitive. Our model isn't working as well. We're not moving ahead, we're just keeping it like this, and that's not creative. That's not challenging. So we closed it without fuss, and then eventually this tour, the River Valley Art Studio Tour, emerged from that. And because I always wanted to have, I always thought it would be cool to have a studio tour. I thought that would be fun for people to go on, fun for, profitable maybe for artists, and a way to introduce people to art. And I don't know if it's changed my life so much, the creativity changed my life so much as it's kind of driven it.
If you enjoyed this video and are interested in culture and our human condition, why not subscribe? You would make our day.